Josh Lancaster, British Strongman Coaching. In this video, I'm going to cover the yoke fundamentals that I teach to my athletes and that I employ myself that have resulted in consistent results at national and international level. Yoke fundamentals, how to know what to focus on. So you need to look at previous data, look at previous competitions, have a look at your lane. Like, do you compete in a weight class? Do you compete in the opens, inters, novice pathway? What are your aspirations? Are you looking to get top points at comps? Are you realistically looking for damage limitation? Are you looking to just make the numbers up? Are you looking to gain experience? You need to answer these questions because they'll help you set your goals appropriately. So if you're wanting to be, let's say the lighter weight classes, for example, if you want to be getting top points in those events, then you've got to be, if you want to be getting top points on the yoke, you've got to be looking in excess of 2 meters per second, even getting towards 2.5 meters per second. So you're talking for like a 20 meter yoke, you're talking you might get like 260 to 280 to 300. You're going 20 meters, it's got to be like 8 to 10 seconds to be pushing towards top points. As you go heavier with the weight classes, it seems to slow off a little bit just because the weight seem to go up. Like as you go up to say 105s, you might be getting really good points with say 12 seconds for 20 meters, as the comp weight might be approaching up like 340 to 400. But again, just have a look at previous data and have a look at like what's gone before and set your goals. Where's a realistic place in based on your current strength and speed and ability, and then work backwards from that, and it will help you. If you're looking towards like say Giants live comps, opens comps, like internationals, world's strongest man, etc., you'll find that it ranges a lot there, and you'll have like guys at the top end doing really fast, like say Mitchell Hooper, for instance. If you watch his speed with like even 500 yoke, he's hitting really fast times. But then you can still get really good points being middle of the pile to high points with speeds that wouldn't necessarily get you massive points at the lighter weight classes. And that's why the context is key, and you need to look at your data in your lane and work backwards from that, and then that can help you dictate your training specificity and whether you address your training to build speed, build endurance, build max strength, because all these things matter. Yoke fundamentals, straight run. So very common thing to be doing at competition is doing a certain weight yoke for 20 meters or 15 meters as fast as you can. Very often, most of the athletes will finish this and it'll be a race. So therefore, it's going to be about speed and about how fast you can do it. And therefore, the variables that you can control and really focus on are pickup speed, number one. Number two, acceleration speed. So transition from picking it up into actually getting up to your top speed. And then number three, once you're up at your top speed, like actually maintaining that and stopping yourself slowing down. So number one, making sure that the pickup is at the right height. So a lot of people will use like say the sternum as a rough guide, but realistically, there's a couple of things that you need to consider with this. You need to think that if it's really, really heavy for you, you might actually find that having the yoke a little bit higher, so the clearance is less off the ground, gives you the neurological advantage of making the yoke feel lighter as you pick it up, and therefore you're up to speed a little bit quicker. But you may find that if the yoke is light for you, and say you're going to be aiming for say 8 to 9 seconds for 20 meters or faster than 2 meters per second, you may find that actually sacrificing a bit of pickup difficulty, so making the pickup feel a little bit more difficult by having the crossbar a little bit lower, may actually help you get more clearance, and then may help you accelerate and maintain your top speed a little bit better by having the yoke less likely to scrape on the floor. So these are the things to consider, whether in terms of making that pickup height and making that pickup height appropriate for you in the context. So in terms of getting up to top speed quickly, so regardless of pickup stance, we want to make sure that the short, stable steps, because if you think about it, the shorter your steps are as you start out, the more strong and stable you are to get this object moving, which is very important because like before you're getting up to speed, you're having to essentially break the inertia and actually build up a bit of momentum. Once you built up that momentum and then you're transitioning into your top speed, then you can look at opening your strides out, because obviously the longer your stride, the more distance you cover per stride, which is pretty obvious. But you can't go, a lot of people struggle going straight to long strides because of the instability before you gain that momentum. And then once you've opened up the stride, it's important to just maintain the proper rack position and maintain a balanced rack position as you stride out. Because if you feel like you as you're striding out and you're shuffling from side to side or bending forwards, that yoke is going to be that instability in the yoke is going to be exaggerated by the longer strides. So these are the three main things to cover when going for a straight run. So pick up, make sure the pickup's adequate, make sure your acceleration up to top speed is good, and make sure that the top speed maintenance is good by making sure that your positioning is good as you stride out. So a thing that may help with the second element is having to play around with different stances. I'm a fan of staggered stance and split stance because of I find that it helps me with the second phase 2, which is getting up to my top speed and accelerating quicker, because I'm into the stride, I'm quicker, and I'm picking up with in the same stance that I'm going to be using when I'm striding. Some people like picking up with a wider stance and then transitioning in. So the logic here is the wider the stance means that it shortens the range of motion on the pickup. So a lot of people will feel really strong in this position, and therefore it will neurologically make the pickup feel easier. And then a lot of people will pick up, make it feel easier, and then have a nice transition into the steps. But some people may find that this slows them down. So definitely have an explore of both and see what works for you. So you can see in this example, good, strong, solid pickup, short steps to start accelerating. And then once he's up to top speed, he's maintaining that pretty much all the way through. So yoke fundamentals, drop and turn. So we're going to assume that you got the first 3 things nailed down, where you got a good pickup height, you've got a good efficient transition up to your top speed in terms of acceleration, and then you're good at maintaining the top speed. So then now you're going to make sure that you transition efficiently when you come to do the turn. This is where a lot of people waste a lot of time, whereas what we're looking for is a good confident turn where we put the yoke down and then just spin around and just pick it up and be confident. You see a lot of people, they're not confident with the position, they're not sure what to feel. So you've got to train this. A lot of people make the error of not actually training the transition and actually just doing straight runs. Whereas this is something that you can train, and you need to learn how that feels, so you can do it confidently without worrying about being in the wrong position or it sliding down your back. So exposure and practice, and also timing yourself. So good little protocols that you can do to do this, even if you just add it into your normal yoke session, if you're going heavy or whatever. Just doing, like, say, some 5-meter drop and turn where you're focusing on, say, even with the empty yoke, and you're just trying to, I almost imagine that I've got like a pivot point on my, where what feels good in terms of my rack position. I almost imagine as I put it down that I pivot around that point rather than completely letting go of the yoke and then readdressing it and rebracing. I just try and slide, glide. Yoke fundamentals, max distance. So when you're going for max distance, the key is to find a position that you can maintain throughout the duration that you're going for. So in this case, this was for a minute, and I knew that I couldn't waste my time bracing. This is what a lot of people make the error. They make the error of like looking really good for 20-30 seconds and then just completely blowing out and dying. So it looks like that here. You can see how I'm keeping my arms completely relaxed. I'm not wasting any energy creating any extra like core stability with the yoke. I'm really relying on keeping my joints stacked and using my skeleton and actually focusing on a pace I can maintain all the way through the time. So you can see, even as I get deep here, because the yoke's balanced over my stacked joints throughout, that I can maintain a similar technique throughout and endure the set. Yoke fundamentals, pickup stance. All right, see, yoke fundamentals, pickup stance. So you can see that I'm a massive advocate of the split stance or staggered stance start that I use in this video here. And I first started off doing this with really lightweight. So you can see as a turn that I use my I pick up in a split stance. So the advantages of picking up in a split stance is that you're mimicking that your stride, your gait, and your stride mechanics that you're going to do when you're moving. So you find that once you pick it up, you transition into your step a lot quicker than you would be if you were doing, like, say, a wide stance pickup or a bilateral stance pickup, and it can help you transition into the acceleration a lot quicker. So you can see that in this video, you can see that I use this technique at Worlds in 2021, where I came second in the under 80s class, and you can see that the start that I managed to get off to compared to the other guys, and you can actually see that even though on the third lane here, he finished off going faster than me in terms of the top speed and the deceleration from the top speed, but with it being only 15 meters, the advantage that I got from getting off to such a fast start with the staggered stance just paid massive dividends. So I'm a massive advocate of learning the split stance for most people. And I was really, at first, I thought that this was just going to work really well for going like light to moderate weights, but when you go really heavy, are you going to be strong enough to pick it up? Whereas I've got so used to it and built up conditioning and strength in that position that I've actually done my PB in terms of strength. I've managed 410 kilos for 10 meters with a staggered stance pickup. So it's definitely worth exploring for a lot of people. Some people may not find that they like it too much, and they don't feel that it just makes it feel too heavy in the pickup, and then therefore you might find that picking up with a wider stance bilateral helps shorten the range of motion on the pickup, and then it makes that feel lighter, and then you can transition into your you can transition into your steps by bringing your feet in. But it's gonna cost you a bit of acceleration. But if that makes your pickup feel better, it might be worth the trade-off for you. So you've just got to explore. Yoke fundamentals: how to train with no yoke. So this is a common question that I get for people who don't have access to a yoke themselves, or they don't have access to a strongman gym, but they train at a commercial gym. So what I would recommend is, if you can get hold of an axle bar, then even better. But at least just get a barbell in a rack, mimic your yoke rack position, almost like a back squat. Decide whether you prefer your high bar, your low bar, somewhere in between. I'm an advocate of low bar grip on yoke. It's not quite as low as I would do if I did a low bar squat, but it's somewhere between low bar and high bar, like closer to low bar, to be honest. And it just makes any given weight easier to stabilize, because then the moment arm is reduced, and where the weight is attached to your torso in relation to the bit where you're producing force, it's closer. So therefore you're going to have to produce less force to stabilize any given weight when it's lower down and closer to that point. But for some people, it's uncomfortable. But you can practice this with no yoke. You can practice this core stability and this positioning, and this practicing the what angle to have your torso, etc. And I'm a massive advocate of to build up the unilateral stability is by doing marching on the spot. So you can do it in the rack at a commercial gym, and therefore you're going to build up that specific unilateral stability and strength. And if you feel like you're just happy training squats to transfer to your yoke, I know lots of people who are brilliant squatters who really struggle with yoke and yoke speed and yoke strength and stability, because if you think about it, it's not about how strong you are with your legs, like your legs equal. It's actually how strong you are and stable when your feet are in a split stance apart, and the stronger that you can get at spreading your feet out, and the more strength you can build in that unilateral stance, the more you're going to be able to stride out eventually when you're doing your yoke runs. So this unilateral strength and stability can be built in the ideally it's going to be great if you can get exposure to yoke frequently every week, or if you're lucky enough to train at a strongman gym or have your own equipment, training it multiple times a week at different intensities can work great. That's worked really well for me over the course of time. But find that if you can use the commercial gym setup or your garage setup and get that unilateral strength and stability, basically thinking about building up strength in the staggered stance, moving from one side to the other whilst maintaining torso in the same relation to the same angle in relation to the ground. So you want to minimize forwards and backwards rocking and lateral sway. And this can be done without exposure to a yoke. So therefore, if you do this without relying on having to go to your yoke and you train it in your normal gym, when you do go to your yoke, you're gonna be able to progress a lot quicker. You're gonna be able to do a lot more work. Any given percentage, you're gonna be able to go heavier generally because you've already built up that strength, stability, and conditioning. Yoke fundamentals, the best place to put it on your back. So I'm a massive fan of using like a low bar stance on the yoke. A lot of people prefer high bar because it's just more comfortable, and a lot of people are more statistically more used to high bar. A lot of people have just had more experience doing high bar, especially if they haven't come from a powerlifting background. But the advantage of getting a lower bar position on your back is the fact that you're going to get the center of mass of the yoke closer to the bit of your body that's producing force, or closer to the hips where you're strong. You're going to reduce that moment arm, and you're just going to have to produce less force to stabilize the same weight, providing you can get it into that same position. So if you think about it as a continuum, the further away that the weight is from your hips, essentially, the heavier weight is going to feel. So like, say for instance, if you held the yoke overhead, you're going to be able to, the weight is going to feel a lot heavier than having the weight balanced lower down your body on your traps. So if you use this kind of analogy and think about, actually, can I get it even lower, then this is going to be helpful for most people. But then I hear people who try this have the error of, they feel like having the yoke further down the back, they feel like it's going to slide down the back, so then they're using energy in their arms to stop the yoke sliding down. If this is you, then what you need to do, instead of using your arms to stop the yoke sliding down, you just need to angle your torso forward to find that central rack position, so the yoke's balanced over your midfoot. And I'm a massive fan of just using the torso angle to calibrate where the yoke should be, and aim to find that rack position where the yoke doesn't feel like it's sliding down your back. And then over the course of time, get more confident where we're racking the yoke ever so slightly towards your toes, as you will be able to use the weight of the yoke to essentially pull you forward and harness this momentum, and almost do like a controlled fall as you stride out. So obviously, the lighter the weight, the easier you're going to find it to get your head around this and be able to practice it. And obviously, the heavier the weight, the more you want it close to midfoot, in terms of, because it's going to be on a balance and stability continuum. Yoke fundamentals, best place to put the hands. So this is going to be individual, and you're going to have to explore, and it's going to change from yoke to yoke. You might find that if you're narrow and small compared to how wide the yoke is, say smaller people, or if you're using a big yoke, you might find that just having like almost like a high bar squat, or sorry, not a high bar squat, a back squat position, you might not be able to reach comfortably to get to hold on to the yoke at the sides. So you can start at the top. But if you are long enough to reach the yoke at the sides, then obviously you're going to get the stability benefits that you can use. The lighter the yoke, I find that some people can have a benefit of, if you put your hands towards the bottom on a lighter yoke, if you're going to, what some people do is use the technique of accelerating really quickly with the yoke and sacrificing a bit of stability for speed. So where you kind of make the yoke swing as you set off, because you're going so quickly. If you have your hands lower, you might find it easier to stop this swinging and actually keep the yoke forward, and actually keep the weight of the yoke towards your toes to help you with the momentum. But you may find that as the weight gets heavier, you may find that this is just putting your arms in a position that they don't feel strong and great for producing global core stability. You might find that actually having your arms a little bit higher, heavier, helps you create more lat stability and more just overall global stability throughout the body, which in turn may help with your feeling strong. So yeah, that's a thing to play with. Light yoke. Try using the hands. That may help to Stop the swing if you need it, and then maybe have your arms a little bit higher if you needed to feel strong and create more tension. Yoke error, sway forwards and backwards. So sometimes this is caused by people just altering the torso angle forwards and backwards too much. So what I'm a massive fan of is actually getting your torso in a position that stays fixed throughout. So as you pick, as if the yoke's heavier, you're going to have the yoke closer to midfoot in terms of from the side, because if you have the yoke too far in front of you, it might be too much when it's heavy, and it might pull you into a poor position and make you fail. But as the yoke's lighter, as the yoke is lighter, you may get more confident and skilled, allowing the yoke to be a little bit in front of midfoot, so you can harness the momentum of the yoke to pull you forward. But a thing that should stay constant is the torso angle that you start with when you're starting your acceleration should stay in this position. So say you decide that it's a light to moderate yoke, and you're going to have the yoke towards your toes in terms of balance. So then as you pick, you can feel the yoke pulling you forward, and you're almost doing a controlled fall. The thing that should stay constant is this torso angle that you start with. And if you start going up and down like that, then that's going to cause this yoke to swing. And a lot of people try and fix this by using the arms, whereas it can be good to, if the yoke's really light, to use the arms, because you can almost afford to be a little bit more erratic, if you will, and just go as fast as you can, and you can offset the lightweight of the yoke with your upper body strength. But generally, for moderate to heavier yokes, the arms are going to, if you're getting up to a maximal weight yoke, your arms are just going to get too fatigued too quickly trying to control the weight of the yoke. What we should be doing instead is be making sure that torso angle stays constant, and you're minimizing the swing as you stride out with the legs. So keeping the constant torso angle fixed is going to fix the forward and backward sway. Yoke error, sway from side to side. So this error comes in when you see people going like this, and the torso angle coming from the side to side like that. So you'll find that if people, this is an error that can creep in as the weight gets heavier for people, and it's just basically your body's going to the position where they feel strong, and maybe your hip flexors are a bit tired, and you can't reach. You're struggling to reach out forwards, but you're feeling strong in that kind of externally rotated position of the hip where your legs move out to the side. But this is just going to, this position where you feel strong is going to cause that yoke to go like that, which is going to it may get to the point where it exaggerates so much that it causes you to pull and fail. So what we'd recommend is, at lighter weights, making sure that you're practicing moving the hips independently of the torso. So it's the common theme of making sure that the torso angle that you start with is what you maintain throughout the lift. So even if your legs are getting pulled out to the sides a little bit, just making sure that you're trying to move those hips independently of the torso. So this can be practiced and strengthened with lighter weights. You don't even need to do yoke to do this. You can do this with marching in the rack, just making sure that you're keeping the yoke or the bar parallel to the floor, not letting it go from side to side. Yoke error, sliding down back. So this error is often caused by, if you feel that yoke's sliding down your back, what a lot of people make the error is trying to push against it with the arms, whereas the simple fix is by altering the torso angle and just getting a bit of forward lean. If you feel like the yoke is wanting to slide down your back, then you're not leaning too far. You're not leaning far enough forwards with the torso or hinging at the hips. So just try hinging at the hips a little bit more to get that forward lean, and find that position where you feel like your arms could relax. So a good drill that I like to teach you how to find this position is actually get like an empty yoke or really, really, really lightweight that you don't have to hold with the arms at all, and you just put it on your back, and you have to find the position where you can move with the yoke without using your arms. And you will probably find that if the yoke's sliding down your back, you'll be able to fix this just by altering that torso angle and find that weightless rack position. And then once you've done this, then layer it with skill by adding the arms on top of this, and you'll find that this will fix the yoke sliding down the back error almost instantly. Yoke error, dropping when moving fast. So this is a common thing when people transitioning either from the the pick up into the acceleration phase, and they're trying to do it too quick, and they're trying to step out with the feet too quickly. And so this can be fixed by just picking up and taking short little steps, and then as you get deeper into the run, then striding out as you go along, rather than trying to step out too early. If you're finding that the acceleration phase is good, but it's in the top speed maintenance phase, that it just happens out of nowhere, just practicing some top speed work. So maybe doing some practicing some longer runs, practicing some 20-meter runs, some 25-meter runs, some 30-meter runs with a light to moderate weight, and just practice maintaining the skill of keeping your torso in a fixed position whilst your legs are moving fast. Yoke error, feeling strong with slow time. So a common thing that you see is people saying that comp weight, oh yeah, it feels easy, or did really well, felt really good, but then they look at the positioning and they came low down in the competition. So this is very easily fixed by just changing the training objective, rather than looking at, say, a comp weight as being the goal to aim towards in terms of strength. Actually look at, say, what other people's speeds are who have maybe done the comp last time, and maybe have a look at the times, or maybe have a look at some data. If you're going blindly into it and you're not sure, if the comp weight feels light to moderate, then like aiming for 2 meters per second poor. So aiming for 20 meters in sub 10 seconds is going to be a reasonable start point. And if you find that you're struggling to hit these times, even with like a really lightweight yoke, drop the weight right down and just practice until you can hit these speeds. And then once you learn how to hit these speeds in terms of skill, then slowly but consistently add the weight on top, and you'll find that getting stronger once you've learned the skill of building the speed is a lot easier to do in terms of skill, rather than actually trying to get faster with a heavy weight. Over the course of time, you want to phase your training and of course do both, but you'll find that taking this approach is a very good way of building confidence with your speed when the weight feels light, but you're not happy with your overall times. Yoke error, relying too much on upper body tension. So see it very often, especially when people are going for, like, say, a drop and turn, moderate to heavy, say 30 meters or 40 meters. You see people that they use a lot of tension, and they create a lot of tension in their upper body. That, yeah, I can see the logic. It makes the yoke feel lighter at those initial steps, and you're thinking about enhancing your brace, etc. But the thing is, when you're 25 to 30 seconds into a set, that brace you can't hold anymore, and you can't, or it's significantly limited. So if you're relying on using that brace early on, but then you're having to use a different technique deeper into the set, then your technique completely changes. So what I find it works really well instead is actually focusing on finding a really nice weightless rack position where your yoke is stacked on top of your spine, instead of using your arms to keep it in a good position. And then almost getting into a position where I like flicking my arms on yoke. When I go like that, and I'll almost flick my arms to make sure that my arms are like quite loose as I'm doing my build-up sets, and just making sure that I'm holding myself accountable to finding a brilliant rack position, as opposed to just creating tension in my upper body. Because if you create loads of tension in your upper body under yoke, it can actually give yourself the illusion that the weight feels really good, because you can almost like get your nervous system so firing so much, and that creating that upper body stability, the weight feels pretty light. And you might only find out that you're on your way back, or if you're doing like heavy one way, like say 15 meters into the set, that when you need to take a breath, and then you feel really fatigued, and you can't create that tension in your upper body anymore, and all of a sudden you realize that the yoke's not in the best position possible, that yeah, you can get found out. So yeah, I would prioritize rack position and almost use the upper body as, I like to describe it to my clients as like as a cherry on the cake, rather than relying on it to create much tension. Just use that rack position. Focus on you. Use that rack position to get the yoke in a stacked position on top of your joints. Use most of the energy you can focus most of the energy on into the lower body, into the bit that creating the movement and creating most of the power, and then just use the upper body as your kind of icing on the cake to create that little bit more stability, and also there as your margin for error. So say, for instance, you take a bad step or the ground's a bit uneven and the yoke swings one way, and you can almost use your upper body as your error margin rather than the main driver of force.